It started with hope, the kind that brings a nation together. Malaysia's football fans had waited decades for their team to shine again. The government, hungry for international recognition, announced a massive new plan. A football revolution built on foreign-born talent. Players from Africa, South America, and Europe were offered citizenship, huge contracts, and the promise to make Malaysia a continental powerhouse. At first, everything looked perfect. The press called it the new era. Stadiums were packed, fans waved the Malaysian flag with pride, and the media celebrated every victory as a national triumph. For a while, it felt like the dream had finally begun. But behind the scenes, the foundations were already cracking. Documents were being approved overnight. Citizenship rules were being bent for profit. Reports emerged that agents and officials were pocketing millions in processing fees. Some players who barely knew the national anthem were suddenly wearing the Malaysian jersey. Soon, whispers turned into headlines. An investigation revealed that several football officials were involved in a secret money network, trading passports for kickbacks. The truth spread like wildfire. This wasn't a sports miracle, it was a scam dressed as patriotism. The fans who once filled the stands now watched in disbelief. The heroes they trusted were part of a lie. What was supposed to revive Malaysian football ended up exposing one of the biggest scandals in the nation's sports history. This is the untold story of how Malaysia's football dream collapsed. Not because of defeat on the pitch, but because of corruption off it. It all began with a bold dream to make Malaysia a football powerhouse. The Football Association, backed by government funding, launched a new initiative to recruit foreign players who could bring experience, strength, and global recognition to the local game. Billboards across Kuala Lumpur screamed, "Harimau Malaya Reborn," and social media campaigns promised, "World Cup 2030, here we come." At first, the plan seemed brilliant. Several African and South American players, struggling in their own leagues, were offered life-changing contracts to play for Malaysian clubs, and eventually, the national team. Within months, dozens of players were fast-tracked through the citizenship process. Papers were signed overnight, and many of these athletes began wearing the Malaysian badge with pride, or so it seemed. Fans were thrilled. For the first time in decades, Malaysia was winning friendly matches against regional rivals. Crowds returned to stadiums. TV ratings skyrocketed, and sponsors flooded in. But beneath the celebration, there were warning signs. When journalists began investigating how quickly these players had been granted citizenship, they found inconsistencies. Some had been living in Malaysia for less than 6 months, far below the legal requirement. Others couldn't even pronounce basic Malay words or name the capital city. Then came the money trail. Documents leaked to local newspapers showed that football agents and officials were charging administrative fees of up to $50,000 per player for citizenship fast-tracking. The investigation deepened when a whistleblower inside the immigration department revealed that fake residency records had been created for several athletes. The story exploded across national media. Fans who once cheered these players began to question everything. Was this really about improving football, or about filling pockets? Caught in the storm were the players themselves. Some truly loved Malaysia. They wanted to represent the nation with honor, but others admitted, off camera, that they were just there for the money. One South American striker confessed in an interview, "They told me I'd get a passport and a salary 5 times higher. I didn't even know the country before they called me." Several players began to clash with local teammates who felt they were losing spots on the team to foreigners with no emotional connection to Malaysia. Training sessions grew tense, locker rooms divided, and the media began labeling it the imported team. Even coaches were frustrated. One local coach said anonymously, "We wanted to build talent, but now it's a business. Players come here for contracts, not for pride." Everything unraveled when a major expose aired on national television. Hidden camera footage showed an agent boasting about his influence with football officials. He described how he could get a passport in 3 days for the right price. Screenshots of WhatsApp messages between high-ranking officials and agents revealed the scale of the operation. Millions of dollars had been exchanged through offshore accounts. Within 24 hours, the government announced a full investigation. The Football Association's headquarters were raided. Several top officials were suspended, and multiple agents were arrested. The entire nation was in shock. What began as a patriotic dream now looked like one of the biggest sports corruption scandals in Southeast Asian history. The damage was irreversible. Sponsors pulled their funding. TV deals were cancelled, and several foreign players fled the country overnight. Malaysia's FIFA ranking dropped sharply. The national team, once hailed as the new hope, became the symbol of betrayal. Fans who once painted their faces with national colors now burned flags outside stadiums. Hashtags like football fraud and passport scam trended across Malaysian social media for weeks. And the most tragic part, the few honest players, the ones who truly wanted to make Malaysia proud, were caught in the wreckage. Their careers were destroyed by a system that used them as pawns in a dirty game of politics and money. Months later, the investigation concluded with a devastating report. Over 25 officials and agents had been involved in illegal citizenship trading. Millions of dollars in fees were traced to private accounts in Singapore and Dubai. The government promised reforms, but public trust was gone. A former national captain said in an interview, "We didn't lose because of talent, we lost because of greed." His words echoed across the nation. Youth academies began losing funding. Parents stopped sending their kids to football programs, believing it was a corrupt system. Malaysia's football dream had collapsed, not because of failure on the pitch, but because of betrayal off it. Years later, when fans look back at that era, they don't remember the victories or the goals. They remember the headlines, the lies, the fake papers, the stolen dreams. It became a cautionary tale for every developing football nation. Chasing shortcuts leads only to ruin. Today, Malaysia is rebuilding slowly, focusing again on local talent. But the scars of the scandal remain. Stadiums still echo with empty seats, and every new football promise is met with skepticism. As one fan said during a televised interview, standing outside Bukit Jalil Stadium with tears in his eyes, "We didn't just lose a team, we lost our belief." This is the story of how Malaysia's football empire fell. Not under the weight of defeat, but under the burden of corruption and broken trust. A reminder that true greatness in football is not built on money or passports, but on passion, honesty, and heart. In the end, Malaysia's football scandal became more than just a sports story. It turned into a national lesson about integrity, pride, and the price of greed. What began with dreams of glory and world-class ambitions ended in shame, corruption, and the loss of national identity on the pitch. The promises of greatness, foreign talent, and quick success were nothing but illusions built on political manipulation and greed. But every downfall leaves behind a spark of hope. In the years after the scandal, a new generation of Malaysian footballers began to rise. Young, hungry, and determined to rebuild what was lost. They trained without glamour, played without pay, and fought for something money could never buy: respect. Fans slowly returned to the stands, not for flashy stars or imported heroes, but for local players who represented their flag with honor. The journey back to greatness is long, but Malaysia's football spirit has proven unbreakable. And maybe that's the real victory. Not lifting a trophy, but reclaiming integrity and passion from the ashes of betrayal. As one commentator famously said during a local match years later, "They tried to buy pride, but in the end, pride must be earned." This story serves as a reminder to the football world. True legends are not made in contracts or scandals. They are made in moments of honesty, sacrifice, and love for the game.